Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of Balls in Your Face Marketing. I am joined today by somebody who I've been a big fan of for a little while. I've been watching his updates on LinkedIn on a weekly basis. He does this amazing weekly review of what's in the news on social media. He is one of the founders of Frankl Productions, Fraser Cottrell. Let's start off with the weekly update, because if you know, ladies and gentlemen, if you haven't checked him out, go on LinkedIn, follow Fraser's content, because every Friday he posts this great little snippet. It's like an Entertainment Tonight little bit where he talks about what's going on in social marketing. I find it a great source of news because, for sure, you know, I'm in this industry, but I can't keep up with everything that's going on all the time. And you know, again, so it's great material, and it's delivered in, you know, with your style, which is you know, very sort of fun and light and charming and witty, etc. So tell me a bit about, you know, how that came about, and maybe a bit about the process and so forth.
So I think, you know, I think very much like you said, it is difficult in a day and age where like news is constantly happening, especially for like us in the marketing industry. It's very difficult to keep on top of what's going on, and especially with, you know, this kind of social industry changing every 5 seconds. It is so hard to keep on kind of on top of the news, really. And so there was so much news going on, and things were always changing in social media. And so I thought, like, there needs to be something that we can watch, you know, because again, there was a lot of things that did what the social rundown do, but it was all text. And like, I'm a firm believer, I don't have time to sit there and read something, you know, like I find it very difficult to give time to do that. And so, you know, it was, you know, kind of the logical thing to put it into a video. So that's what we did. We kind of made this, what we wanted it to be a minute or under, but it's kind of slowly grown to be around 2 minutes, because that's kind of the sweet spot that we find, you know, but our watch time is, you know, quite high. So, you know, but we kind of found this kind of format where it was a little bit jokey, it was a little bit, you know, lighthearted, I guess, you know, kind of run of the news, which was the top 3 social media topics that were going on at the moment. Because normally, like, there's a lot of rubbish, but normally there's like 3 or 4 things which really catch people's eyes, you know. So a lot of it is focused on our everyday social media platforms that we use, new features that people are bringing out, new apps or new hardware that people are bringing out. And so we saw a gap in the market and we filled it, and now, you know, some of the biggest agencies in the UK are copying what we do, which is great. Yeah. You know, very flattering, you know, but again, you know, a lot of people are copying the format. They're not doing it as well, I have to say, you know, but a lot of putting their own take on it. Then again, a lot of people just doing it in text still, which kind of baffles me. You know, to like, I understand it's probably a lot easier to do it in text, but what we do is we film the social rundown, and then Hannah, which produces it, she writes the scripts for us, and then she puts them online on Medium for people to read as well. So people do have the option to read it. We have a mailing list where it comes directly into your inbox every morning, you know, so you can watch it first thing in the morning, you know, and it's kind of slowly becoming a lot bigger than it used to be, which is great. You know, my kind of, you know, we upload it to YouTube and kind of multi-platforms, but I say it's most successful on LinkedIn because that's kind of where it is. My kind of dream is to put a little more work into it and kind of have it as something which covers, instead of just social rundown, you know, it's kind of a lot of other different kind of news outlets, and kind of bring it in something where people can go to this for just a quick snippet of the news, and they can, you know, quickly digest it and move on with their day. But it's early days. We've been doing it we've had 3 seasons. We kind of split the seasons up depending on holidays. Our first one was about 20 episodes. Our second one was around 30. So it's like slowly getting bigger. Which is great. You know, we really enjoy it, and I think a lot has to do with how it's delivered, kind of how the scripts are kind of written as well, and the response has been really great so far. It's been really good.
Man, I would love to see you guys expand it out into the broader range of news. One, in part because you know, just traditional news these days, I find, is just, it just doesn't work for me anymore. It's so, yeah. You know, it is so now geared towards entertaining us and hyping up, you know, being hyperbolic about non-news items. That I just find that they just don't serve our interests.
Kind of the perfect example of this is today there was some social news that came out that Snapchat were going to be changing the way that it works. Now the news headlines targeted this, like, you know, their main kind of clickbait headline was Snapchat are making snaps permanent. You know, they're no longer, you know, gonna, you know, go away after 10 seconds.
Right.
That isn't true. Instead, they're changing it. So if you post a Snapchat public, in order, you know, if you're in a public place, you post it to the public snap map, as they call it, that will be permanent. Mm-hmm. You know, however, if you send stuff to your friends, that will, you know, just be the same. However, news outlets have changed the story and weave their own thing into it just to get people clicking on it for the adverts, you know, basically. And that's, if you go on any news website now, it's the worst. It's bombarded by adverts. Everything is there for you to click on it. And that's one of the main things that we wanted to do with the social rundown. It's just like straight, easy. This is how it is, you know, like our kind of piecing of it is we have an intro piece which discusses what the topic is, and then I have a tiny little bit of detail about it, and then a witty comment at the end. Like, that's normally kind of, you know, how we do it. Because if people really want to read about something, there's a million other outlets that will do that better than we can. You know, there's no point me sitting here and telling you all the ins and outs of how a new Snapchat update works when you can Google it and find the rest. Mm-hmm. But a lot of people just need that quick, okay, I'm out, done, you know?
Yeah. No, and this is the thing, like, I had a guest on, it was two guests on at the same time, but one of them said something that I thought was just really captured, I think, a genuine need across the world, you know, dealing with, you know, all of these new technologies, you know, which is that really it's sort of the challenge of our age. The biggest challenge is that we have a deluge of information. There's no shortage of information.
Yeah.
The challenge is disseminating out of that what is insight, from that insight what is wisdom, I guess, and then, you know, from that wisdom, how can you map it onto your life? But again, it's that disseminating that insight itself is a big challenge, and you found a format and an approach and a way that does that in a very kind of condensed way that I think is absolutely brilliant. So it's good stuff, and I'm really happy to see that it's working for you guys. And I would love to see you guys expand it into other areas.
Yeah,
like I said,
I mean, you know, kind of myself and Nick have always envisaged, like, Frankl Productions, one day we just want to make our own content. You know, that's kind of our main goal, is one day to not have to work with clients all the time, you know, and instead just work for ourselves, you know, in the literal sense that we just make content. You know, I think the social rundown is one of those, that kind of first step in that direction for us, hopefully one day to be able to monetize that and then turn it into something which is, you know, kind of much bigger. You know, as much as we love working with our clients and stuff like this, you know, I think that original content is really going to have a big push in 2019, and I'm urging brands, you know, to kind of get ahead of that curve. You know, I mean, you have a podcast which is, you know, your own thing, you know, and I think that a lot more people need to do that in order to kind of stay relevant. And, you know, and I can kind of see a lot of brands gearing themselves towards original content only and kind of ditching the rest of stuff they did, I think.
Yeah. No, well, I mean, and that's a good maybe segue for you to start to tell us a little bit about the inception of Frankl Productions and how you guys got started, why you got started. For sure, you know, I share, you know, an interest in multimedia production, so some similar path. But for the audience, why don't you tell us a bit about that?
Yeah, so Fraggell started, it's basically myself, my business partner, Nick. We've now grown to have Hannah, which is kind of a producer and social media manager. And basically so basically we started, we left college. We both studied video production at college. We both kind of loved what we did. Nick was normally kind of the computer guy, the editing, and I was kind of behind the camera filming stuff. I'd always kind of taken photos, and I loved photography as a kid. However, I kind of fell in love with film and the way that it was made. And so I kind of, I kind of settled when I was a kid. I was like, okay, I want to be a film director. That's what I want to do. And then slowly kind of time went on. I went to went to college. I met Nick. We kind of we got our first ever paid job given to us by our college while we were still studying there. And that kind of spurred us on to be like, okay, I think we could do this for ourselves. Because it kind of combining what we want to do as well as the freedom of kind of working on our own. I left to go to university because I wanted to study filmmaking, because again, I thought I wanted to be a film director. While I was at university, I decided I didn't want to be a film director. Instead, I wanted to be a director of photography. I wanted to be behind the cameras and stuff like that. And then that was very short-lived. And I graduated university, worked for a marketing agency for a little while and hated it. I hated working for somebody else. It was the worst. And then by this time I was so interested in like the world of social media and the way that video was moving so quickly. It was just, for me, like that was where video is going. And so I spoke to Nick, and we came up with this idea about this like social first video company where we only make stuff for digital, basically, whether that's YouTube, people's websites, or, kind of Facebook and stuff like that. And then Facebook video blew up, which was great for us. And then, then kind of slowly from that, we've kind of become what we are now, which is like a content agency. We mostly focus on video. We create video every single day. But now we also manage client social medias as well. But kind of a large chunk of it is creating the content for people to kind of put spend behind to become paid social. So we work with clients like Pretty Little Thing, worldwide fashion brand. We do all their Instagram, television stuff. We work with people like Lad Bible and Odds to create like new style videos. Barclaycard for Snapchat ads. If in basically a marketing agency will come up with a marketing plan, they'll think, okay, we need video, and then they'll employ us to mainly do that. So we get a lot of work from kind of social first marketing agencies because they want people which are specialized in that subject. There's a lot of video production companies, but they're all either run by the older generation or they don't really know what they're doing when it comes to social. So we're kind of in the middle. We know what we're doing with social. We don't touch television. We don't believe in it. Anything that we don't think will work, we will tell the client it won't work.
Right. It's man, this is fascinating because I feel like we've arrived at very similar places through slightly different pathing. So I mean, originally my degree was in psychology. Now, by the time I finished my undergraduate, I knew, I was like, okay, I'm not going into psychology. But I had no idea what I wanted to do, and then I ended up taking. So I used all the university resources, right? And took the aptitude tests and interests and strengths and personality tests and all that stuff. At the end of all of those things, it basically like said, okay, you are well suited for two career paths: priest or marketing. And I'm like, well, I'm no priest, so there we go. That's an easy choice. So I got into it, but same thing I think with you. So at one point along the way, I was like, I didn't like working for agencies. I went back to school and studied sound design, studio engineering. I thought I was going to be doing purely that, and almost did start working into a studio. But then I was offered a job at a multimedia production company, and it was kind of like this, like which was, it fed my interest in business. It fed my interests in the web. And in fact, I'd had before that for a little while, I did already own my own web hosting and web design company. So I was already kind of into the digital side of things. And these guys were doing all kinds of great stuff. And so I learned video there. But exactly what you're talking about was, when I joined that company, they were small, they weren't too big. And they grew up fast. Video production, they did a whole bunch of other stuff, but really I would say that video production, they did a very good job of it, and they were selling, but they never wrapped their heads around, thought too much around the social, like, okay, like here we can produce your video, and clients want that. Well, okay, but how do you convert that? How do you leverage that video? How do you get people to watch it? Yeah. And they're ignoring that. I mean, there was an article, I've spoken about this article from half a year ago or so back in Forbes, talking about how the greatest threat to traditional agencies is the legion of freelancers that they all let go.
Mm-hmm. Oh, for sure. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I remember that, kind of the agency that I worked for, I kind of, one of the main reasons that I left is because I wanted to do my own thing. Like, in the bottom, I always had this thought. I was like, I could do this miles better. I was like, everything that was happening, I was like, I could do this better. I could do this better. Why am I not doing this? And you know, and then, you know, kind of like when I left, you know, they were kind of growing massively, you know, they were bringing in huge clients, you know, and I remember somebody there saying, oh, you know, this could probably be, you know, the worst thing that you do, you know, and I was there thinking, I was like, I don't think this is the worst thing. Like, working here is horrible. I hate working here. Like, I believe that I can do better, you know, and now, you know, like, we're pitching against this agency, you know, and like, they're a worldwide agency. We're 3 people in a studio, you know, like,
but you add more value. I really believe that the small, dedicated, young, hungry shops, you know, the technology has bridged the gap in part.
Yeah, 100%. You know, there's now this ability for us, you know, as small agencies to work with massive brands, because a lot of them work with big agencies, you know, and a lot of them give a lot of their, you know, kind of marketing budget to these big agencies. But then there's these other smaller jobs which kind of, you know, dot around, which they don't really have time to do in-house, which smaller agencies start to do. And then they realize, hang on, we're getting the same service from a smaller agency than we are with the £100,000 agency. Why are we still using them? Why aren't we using this smaller agency which can do a mile better job for half the budget? You know, because we don't have the overheads that these big agencies have.
It's the lack of the overheads, like you said. Like, that's what I often say. Like, I'm like, you know, it's like the same services as a traditional agency, but we've forgone the traditional trappings, namely exposed brick walls and ping pong tables, and even retainer contracts, because my agency will train people to, you know, to leverage the infrastructure that maybe will help them build up, but then, you know, so to facilitate them marketing themselves, which again, I think today is something that you can do and is even a good thing for a lot of companies to do. But yeah, I think exactly the small guy can offer much greater value for the same value of service. And you can white label, like, that's the thing, is right, you white label with other people. Like, that's the thing, is you can assemble the most appropriate team.
Oh, 100%, yeah.
For the specific client and their objectives and their strategy. And again, you're still saving money because you're paying them on a contract basis for that job, not so they might, and they're getting
I mean, you know, you know, there's 3 of us and our skill sets. You know, Nick's skill set is mostly in post-production. My skill set is mostly, you know, kind of on the camera side, and also, you know, kind of the client-to-client stuff. You know, and then Hannah's is kind of the written stuff and kind of the social management. You know, but then we always have gaps to fill. You know, whether that's like animation stuff or whether that's, you know, someone coming doing Facebook ads. You know, and we have this network of people which we bring in and white label, you know, so that we can, you know, provide the best service. You know, for instance, we primarily operate in the northwest of England, so we mostly do like Manchester and Birmingham, places like that. And, you know, and we kind of found that we were getting a lot of jobs for people offering work in London. London for us is a massive trek. It's like 3 hours on the train, 5-hour drive, something like that. For us, it's a little bit silly for us to, for instance, one time we went to London for a job. We got there at 11, we left at 3, but it took all day. That was like one day out of the office for us where we can't do anything. You know, I can't get in touch with clients. We can't, you know, operate basically. So we started to collect kind of a network of freelancers, which we trust, which we, you know, love. And then whenever somebody says, okay, we want to film in London, we go, okay, you know, we can do that. We're going to be sending this person down to you, you know, and then all that happens on the Frankl Productions. And it means that no matter where in the country there's some filming happening, we can make sure that we take those jobs, you know, to kind of build our client base, and they don't lose out on quality either.
Yeah, it's so funny. It's like as we're talking about this, I'm realizing, like, you know, what appears to have happened is that the traditional agency business model has collapsed under the sort of the pressure of new technologies. And let me for people who've never been in this industry, let me tell you something. I've been in agencies and they'll say, oh yeah, we're not going to be a sweatshop. They all become sweatshops. The business model for the traditional agency, for anybody who's not in this industry, let me tell you, is hire young, work them to the bone, let them build up their skill sets, and then as soon as that individual now thinks that they're worth anything and maybe asks for a raise, kick them out the door, hire somebody, right? And it's just like,
like a lot of larger agencies, their staff turnaround is 6 months.
Exactly. The employee retention rates are terrible.
Yeah, and the reason for that, and that's why I think a lot of these larger agencies offer things like pool tables, holidays whenever you want, all this type of stuff. It's to keep those people, and to kind of help them live in the office so that they don't lose them, because they know that as soon as they realize that these benefits aren't helping them in the sense that they can't buy a house because they aren't paying them enough, like as soon as they realize that, they'll leave and they'll go somewhere else.
That's right.
And it constantly happens all the time. When we started Fraggell, I had this ethos, and I was like, okay, I want to bring in people which are at the very start, and I want to train them, and I want to be able to give them a platform in order to work. One of my friends, she's 27. She just decided that she wants to be a copywriter, and she's never done it before in her life. She's worked in admin since she was like 18. And she decided that she wants to be a copywriter. And I said, okay, you can write the copy for our adverts. Go for it. Mm-hmm. Because I'd rather her mess up with us, where it's acceptable to mess up and learn, because we mess up all the time. That's part of learning. I'd rather her mess up and us be able to teach her the right way to do it than her be taken advantage of at a bigger agency where she isn't going to learn anything. Instead, she's going to be sat there wishing, for the next paycheck.
Yeah. I mean, exactly. I think the virtual model for sure facilitates people having ownership over their job, and that was a thing that I often found in a lot of agencies. Right? Is once somebody's like the creative director, they get to kind of walk on eye and do whatever, and it's like they become like creative dictators, and people lose a lot of sort of junior people. I think they lose that. They get the sort of creative drive and the freedom to express themselves and think outside of the box, almost kind of kicked out of them in a lot of cases. So, and it's kind of, so like I was saying, it's kind of like, like the original, model just couldn't support it. It wasn't sustainable anymore, and it kind of just exploded. And now it's like cells sort of dividing and then metastasizing, right? It's like now all of the people are sort of out online, and again in a virtual way in this global economy, reaching out to each other, filling out each other's gaps, focusing in on what their strengths are. And again, like I said, I'm convinced that the value at the end of the day for the customer is that much greater because of the reduction in cost.
I think again, it's a saying that it's better to be good at one thing than all right at a million things, because at the end of the day,
all trades, master of none.
Yeah, exactly. Because an agency may be able to build you a website, put video on it, put photos on it, do your social media management, but some of there isn't going to be as good as if you went to somebody that really knows video, somebody that knows the ins and outs of video, which you can ask a question and they will be able to answer it straight away. Like for today I've spent my morning fixing a video which I know for a fact no other agency would have been able to fix, because we know video. We've been doing it for 7 or 8 years. We know how everything works, and that kind of helps us then go into a larger marketing agency where their video people are basically trained to crap out a video and then on they go to to the next job. So I think that because of all these smaller freelancers and these smaller agencies branching out, it kind of gives a lot of brands the kind of, it gives them the confidence to be able to create bigger and better things because they know they've got the right people behind it, I think.
But out of curiosity, so tell me about the name of Frankl Production. Does that have anything to do with Frankl Rock?
I get this.
Well, hey, at least there's a name association with it. That's like,
yeah, exactly. A lot of people, like, I'm glad actually that our name sticks with a lot of people. Everyone goes, oh yeah, the Fraggell boys, oh yeah, the Fraggell brothers, whatever. Everybody knows us in this name, which is great. And so Frankl Productions, the name came from, so my brother works in radio, and me and him when we were kids, we had this like dream that we were gonna like create a production company ourselves, and it was going to do audio and photo and video, and it was going to be great. And we kind of always had in the family this name, which was Fraggell, which was a combination of my name, my brother's name, and my dad's name and our surname. Like, so it was like letters jumbled from all those. So I'm Fraser, my brother's Gareth, my dad's Gary, our second name Cottrell. So it's like all those kind of crunched together. And that was all. That was like our family email address. You know, like when a household only had email,
Okay.
you know, like that was our email address. And then I just always liked that word. People recognize it. So
I loved that show growing up as a kid. I thought that was awesome.
Frankl Rock.
Oh, it was so cool.
Yeah, everybody.
Cool, man. Okay, so out of all the news stories, or you know, that you've been following over the last several months, or even last year, what would you pull it? Is there one that you would say, you know, here's the big news story, the big game changer for 2019?
I think the decline of Facebook. I think massively. I think that we're seeing this already. I think the end of last year really screwed them over with the whole like leak and everything. I think that they were created by young people. Okay, it was created at college campus, young people. It was for, you know, that generation. They made it, and then slowly it kind of turned into this bigger beast, you know, and everybody was on Facebook. But then at some point, just young people just went, no, why am I on this? And then Snapchat came along, and then everyone started using Snapchat, you know, and then everyone started to move to Instagram. Facebook saw that and bought Instagram. Like they were very clever
for that. Yeah,
exactly, you know. And the same, you know, with WhatsApp, they realized, oh, hang on a second, everyone's chatting on WhatsApp. Why? I'll buy it. So they bought it, you know, which was an incredibly clever business move. But I think that Facebook as a whole, we will see the slow decline of the platform Facebook, because I think I read a fact, and it was like 70% of people under the age of 16 don't have a Facebook account. And you know, I mean, to be quite honest, the only thing I use Facebook for is Messenger and signing into things with Facebook. You know, and I think you know, a lot of people are the same. You know, I think the Messenger platform is great, but I wonder how much of that is because they have the technology of WhatsApp, you know, and that's one of the main ways that I talk to friends, is either by WhatsApp or by Facebook Messenger. And I think you'll see the slow decline in platform, in the platform of Facebook. Older people are now using it, so kids don't want to use it because it's uncool. So it's now the place where you organize family gatherings.
It's an interesting prediction for sure. I mean, there's no question that, in a way, I'm almost grateful to the whole Facebook Analytica thing, because in a way, like, seeing that people were getting spooked by it, and that was my first, exactly kind of like you, like I said, like I was like, okay, you know, I've been in digital multimedia production, but it's like, hey, what's going on with the social stuff? And so my first place to go to was Facebook. And then seeing that people were getting spooked, it's like, okay, I need to start like really expanding my horizons here, and now it's time to focus on LinkedIn. And I'm very grateful that I did, because I really love the LinkedIn community. You know, it's pure business, and it's just a very, you know, you don't have as much trolling, you don't have
I think
the noise and stuff like that. People used to say, oh, well, LinkedIn is just like a Facebook for business people. Well, it kind of is in a way, but it's also much more than that, I think. And more as LinkedIn expands and it realizes that it's catering to more than just CEOs, I think that it's, you know, that it's now becoming, you know, much more of a friendly platform to people come to that feels a lot more welcoming. You know, it's a brilliant place to, you know, to kind of network. I can't stand network events. I get so uncomfortable and so awkward at networking events. I hate them. But everyone, I remember when we started, they were like, you need to stop networking. You need to go to pizza nights and bar nights and everything like that and talk to people. I was like, I don't want to speak to some people that I don't know. Like, I come from the generation where we hide behind our keyboards and type. Like, you know, that's, you know, and so I think that LinkedIn gives the ability for everyone to be a business person, to network without, you know, the pressure of going out and randomly meeting people. You know, but I think that Facebook will slowly decline. I don't think it will go altogether. I don't think that will. Yeah, that's where I was going to say to it, was that, I mean, the one issue is like, I mean, everybody else is playing catch up in terms of the sophistication of the advertising platform. Right. I mean, now, of course, the advertisers won't go there, or the value of it won't be there if the users go away. But we also, again, have to keep in mind, again, we're talking about, you know, like LinkedIn, again, I think is roughly in the range of 500 million users, and Facebook we're at like over 2 billion, right? And again, the fact that you like, I think you're right that there's going to be a slight decline, because you're right, the demographics definitely suggest that. But it's a little hard to predict. Either they just put all their emphasis more on Instagram because that's where their audience is.
Yeah, I think that you'll see, you know, but I mean, I was thinking about this, like from Facebook's perspective, this could be a really good thing for them, because right now there isn't a place to target the older generation. There isn't, you know, other than traditional advertising outlets, there's no way to target that generation. And so this could be perfect for Facebook. They have Instagram, which is, you know, it's at like 1 billion members. It's, you know, it's an incredibly powerful tool. It's, you know, it's kind of, you know, it does, whenever they do something, they seem to do it better than everybody else. And I think that they, you know, that they could go down the avenue that let's, you know, if the old generation on Facebook, great, that means that we've got them. You know, nobody else has them. We have them. If you want to target the older generation, come to Facebook. If you want to target the younger, go to Instagram.
Yeah, exactly. And maybe they may be siphoning that younger generation. It's like, okay, now that you're sort of, you've grown out of your Instagram years, and maybe Facebook becomes a little more of that sort of business platform. They start to use Facebook to compete more with that sort of LinkedIn niche audience. I don't know.
I think that it's going to be very interesting over the next 12 months to see where they go and how they respond to, you know, the whole safety thing and the whole, you know, leak, because I don't think that's over yet. And I think we're going to carry on seeing, you know, more and more issues with Facebook, and new things seem to come out every single day about it. And again, yeah, I mean, you know, the news came out that by 2020 they want to merge WhatsApp, you know, Instagram Messenger and Facebook Inbox collectively into one app. Like, you know, that, if anything, is sign that Facebook are thinking, okay, maybe we won't be around in 5 years' time. We probably need to do something about that. You know, so I think that they're always trying to think of new ways that they can bring, you know, new life to the platform, and, you know, merge it with the competitor platforms. Well, they're not competitors, they own them, but, you know, with those other apps which are so successful. Yeah,
you know, you're right. I think you're bang on in identifying all kinds of threats that they're under. But as I said, you know, with having the sort of the leverage of the user base, the fact is, the matter is that they still have, you know, a very huge audience with incredible usership. And they also, and I mean, this is really, I think, you know, in today's, when you're talking about businesses at that level, which are effectively now, you know, larger than a lot of sort of nation states in terms of their power and population and so forth. You know, the game is really, it's the race of AI, and they have an edge on that too, right? Like,
yeah, and again, I think for me, I think what's going to be really interesting in kind of this year is seeing where brands which have a very strong kind of social media presence, like companies like Lad Bible and Unilad, you know, kind of these big kind of social media, like meme pages, I guess, you know, where their whole life is on Facebook, really. And, you know, thankfully now they're also, you know, kind of moving to other platforms. But I think it's going to be really interesting to see how they respond to the lack of people slowly using the app, you know, and it's going to be interesting to see how they make sure that they don't lose their audience altogether. And, you know, which is why I think they've started to create, you know, kind of other pieces of, you know, content. If I was them, I'd be looking at things like Vice and stuff like that, where have been incredibly popular in that kind of generation and have leveraged kind of the social media movement really well, but also have created content for multiple platforms at the same time. And then leveraging that huge audience and that huge following that they already have in order to push people to other platforms.
Do you feel that they get picked on a little too much? Like, I mean, singled out when it comes to the whole security issue and stuff? I mean, I certainly felt like that Analytica scandal was overblown and misdirected.
Yeah, I mean, Google have leaks all the time. You know, Google know more about us than anybody else, and nobody really seems to mention them. However, everyone always mentions Facebook. But again, I think that's a lot to do with what you were saying, how they're the biggest, you know, like, they're huge. When everyone thinks social media, they think Facebook.
Right. Yeah.
You know, and that's one of the reasons they were picked on was because they were an easy target, I think, and everyone thinks of them as an easy target because they're so big. But what they don't realize is that, you know, there's also a million other people that do the same thing. But I mean, you know, in the grand scheme of it, it wasn't actually Facebook. You know, it was.
No, I know. It was
an app. It was an app running on Facebook. Like, you know, that's like, you know, me hiring someone, you know, them going off and murdering someone, but then, you know, me getting blamed for it. You know, it's Yeah, it's
Wait, and by the way, the victim, by the way, consented to being murdered. By the way, in your scenario, right?
Yeah, exactly. You know, it's such a weird thing that Facebook got blamed so heavily for it. Obviously, it was using their platform and it was using their, you know, kind of service. However, really, you know, it was more of a loophole than it was a problem, I'd say.
Absolutely. No, I really, you know, felt like it was totally unfair to, one, to pick on them and single them out. Two, I mean, I found watching some of those proceedings, you know, just painful to watch in terms of just how ill prepared and our, you know, any government, I think, is today in terms of legislating and keeping up with these issues when they clearly have zero understanding.
Yeah, they don't.
And it's like, how, you know, well, you know, could you change your mind? Like, why advertising on this media? It's like, did you ever complain about ads on TV? Why is this all of a sudden an issue? Like, but they don't, and, you know, or cookies. What are cookies? You know, like.
Yeah, it starts a whole other debate that, you know, these are the people which are running the country, and yet, you know, they don't understand the simple stuff which is going on, and a lot of that is generational, sadly. You know, but I think that slowly that will change. You know, I think that people will start to gather, you know, that kind of information.
I really think you know, this is, we're getting sort of pretty macro in a way, but I mean, I really actually think that what the solution simply is that the people and businesses and so forth just start taking over from the governments, and hopefully, you know, we as a people then do start to kind of lean towards and favor governments that reduce the size of government and really kind of focus their interests, but that we basically start solving this. Like, I really feel that this is a great power to the people time, right? The fact that, you know, like it's a great time for entrepreneurship. It's a great day and age for people for this sort of gig economy. A lot of people are sort of predicting that to expand. I think that's a great thing. I think this sort of move and shift towards how you and I are operating, for example, what I call sort of the village economy, but it's sort of a return to that, you know. Mm-hmm. And I think these are all really great shifts that are a power to the people that, again, make us, as you and I were talking about earlier, we're competitive. We can be competitive with larger corporations, and that changes the game. So I think it's a great age, but it means we, the people, we small businesses and so forth, really just have to kind of solve these things on our own.
Yeah.
I don't know how you deal with it on policy basis and laws, but I don't know.
Yeah, no, definitely, 100%. Yeah, I agree. I think this, you know, kind of the move that social is kind of doing and how powerful it can be, kind of proves, you know, how much worth we have now compared to what we had, you know, kind of even like 10 years ago.
Yeah,
I think it's really interesting.
Well, I was having this like thought the other day about just this in general. It's like there's so many things that have been transformative that you almost like lose sight of actually how, like, what a ridiculous revolution. Like, just YouTube alone, right? It's like, you know, think about when the invention of the printing press had been to the point where every individual could have a printing press in their home. Mm-hmm. Like, all of a sudden now you're your own broadcaster. That is revolutionary. That is transformative. That is, again, speaking to sort of a power to the people. Never has that kind of thing. And that's just one small micro example of transformative technology. I don't think people are really have fully digested just how intense and insane this is.
Yeah, definitely. I again, you know, and I think, you know, this is another reason why traditional media will slowly start to fall. You know, I mean, you have YouTube now introduced YouTube TV, which is TV without cable, you know, and, you know, there's kind of the streaming service, which I think that if you don't have your eye on, I think that everyone should, is like Twitch. This thing is, you know, is slowly getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Last year, it made a huge impact. This year will only be bigger. You know, more people are broadcasting on Twitch than ever. More people are making a lot of money on Twitch. And I think a perfect example of that is how, you know, the user Ninja was playing Fortnite, and I personally think he alone was responsible for how big that game is. Like, you know,
my kids spend hours watching
Of course I
YouTube
do.
videos of other people playing Fortnite.
Yeah, 100%. You know, I mean, I thoroughly enjoy sitting there and watching somebody play a game, because I'll have it on in the background, and it's just a nice, entertaining thing. You know, there's a lot of time where people do that with TV. They just have it in the background, and now a lot of people do that with YouTube. You know, at the end of the day, TV is second screen viewing. Our first screen is the phone we're looking at.
Yeah.
I don't think
I
know very, very many people that sit glued to the television without looking on something else. My dad sits on his iPad. You know,
we got rid of cable.
Yeah.
I don't have it anymore. Why? If I want to find anything, I could just go, you know, YouTube it and find it later.
Yeah, 100%. You know, I don't. The only reason I have a TV in my house is to watch Netflix.
Yeah, that's the same.
You know, there isn't anything on television which is important enough for me to watch, and if there is, I'll be able to find it somewhere else, or I'll be able to watch it and watch again. You know, there's. Do you remember
like the days when you got, like, if you wanted to watch a show, you had to, like, this? I grew up even before VCRs and VHS and all that stuff, right? I mean, I even remember, like, when it was a huge invention, when we got that little cord, that little box with the buttons for the channels. You could you had 3 little, like, levels to it. And you could pick your channel. And the fact that you didn't have to walk up to the TV anymore. And I
remember one of the coolest things that used to blow my mind is where, if you wanted to record a television show and you wanted to schedule your VHS play to record it, there was a number that you typed in, then set it to record. And I was like, that is amazing. And now, kids don't know they're born now. All they need to do now is go on to the iPlayer, BBC iPlayer, or anything like that.
Everything's on demand. But this is, it's great. It's a great, like, I know the world that my kids have grown up. It's so weird because I don't feel old yet, but I'm at that point where I'm like, in my day,
I was at a concert last Thursday, and I'm a firm believer that if you're experiencing something, you should put your phone away and just watch it and enjoy it. Yeah. You know, I obviously. You know, I enjoy taking photos, you know, and it's my hobby, you know, and obviously I got my phone out, took a photo, but I never kind of looked at it through a phone. Like, if you're, you know, you should just sit there and enjoy kind of being there, you know. And I was, you know, I was stood next to some, you know, they were probably like 17 or 18, and, you know, and these kids were born in 2000, you know, which makes me feel old as it is, you know, and then they're sat there and they're Snapchatting the entire thing.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's very good advice.
You know, it's worrying to think, where will this generation be if these are like this? What will they be like when they're 30 or 40? You know, like, it's very terrifying. But, you know, I mean, how crazy it is, you know, just the stuff that we've seen in our generation, how mad it is to see, you know, what's going to happen in the next 20 years is baffling.
Yeah, it's impossible to predict. Yeah, I mean, I worry about exactly that world, that virtual world. I mean, you and I have seen the evolution from Pong and, you know, Pac-Man, you know, to Fortnite and these immersive worlds that, of course, now with, you know, augmented realities, virtual realities, and so forth. You know, are they going to get? Are those worlds going to become just so much more appealing than the real life world that? But here's my take on that stuff, generally speaking, right? Like, science fiction has always dealt with this stuff, and they've always envisioned this either in a sort of utopian kind of frame or this apocalyptic, right, framework, right? So it's either sort of Star Trek or, you know, any sci-fi movie. I think the conclusion that I've come to, the observation is that we have a tendency to realize all of our dreams. And if we can dream it up, we will realize it. Mm-hmm. And it's never going to be quite as good or quite as bad as envisioned through stories.
Yeah, definitely.
But that's where we're going. And so you know, I don't know. It's really hard. Like, I think Elon Musk talks about that. You know, about how, like, people are really, like, in order to compete with each other, going to be, you know, adding implants or, you know, optical, like, you know, things that work with our brains. The technology now, they had people basically using wavelengths, using brainwave patterns now, played a game of Tetris together collaboratively So in other words, they were basically like reading each other's minds. I mean, again, far, you know, where that technology has a long way to go, but these things are going sort of exponentially faster and faster and faster. Right? So,
you know, as technology advances, our ideas will, you know, become reality much easier than ever before. You know, and I think that in a way that's a great thing, because it means that we can, you know, keep on experimenting and keep on creating amazing things and advancing the world. But obviously, there's always a scary factor that robots could take over and, you know, kill us all. You know.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, my fear isn't so much the robots themselves; it's the humans and how they use them. Right? Yeah. That's it's like if it's just the robot, I think maybe I can find a way to find
I think as long as robots are connected to an extension lead, I think we'll be safe.
Right.
You know, kind
of.
Yeah. If it's battery powered, we're doomed.
Right. Yeah. Well, or just follow it around behind it with an umbrella, solar energy or something like that. But you know what's interesting is this is the other thing. Like, why again? I love what you're doing on your show, and I love your work, and you know what you do, because, like myself, it's like you geek out on this stuff. You find it really fun and fascinating and interesting, but I think you also have this sort of sense of responsibility to people to be honest about the negatives, the things that you see as sort of warning signs, what might be, you know, what people should be more aware of, more mindful of, that we're not mindful enough of. Advice like you just gave, I think, is spot on about just learning to live in the moment sometimes and not always living through our phones. You know, all the potential sort of damaging effects to society. You keep an eye on that in the same way that I find kind of interesting too, and you speak it, which I think is important. You know, it's like sort of being an honest broker in this industry, of rather just saying like social media is the best thing. It's gonna, you know, it's gonna make your business awesome, and like there's nothing wrong with it. It's like there's some good, there's some bad. Let's be honest about it.
Yeah, and I think, you know, I think that's our duty, especially as, like, you know, smaller agencies and freelance. I think that's our job, and the way that we can separate ourselves from everybody else is that we will be truthful and say if something won't work, and say if, you know, and say if a client is going down the, you know, kind of the wrong path, because that's why they hire us. You know, they hire us to be honest, and, you know, and to show them that not everything is perfect. And sometimes, you know, there is a wrong path to go down. You know, and it is our job to say that. You know, there's no point taking the money off someone and then, you know, regretting it when it all goes wrong.
Yeah, and especially with, you know, with all this media, like we now, you have that voice. You have so in a way, to extent, I agree. Like, I think we have an obligation to use it. You know, man, Fraser, this has been so much fun. I really enjoy sort of sitting down and talking shop with you and geeking out. It's been a lot of fun. Thanks so much for coming on the show.
No worries. Thanks very much for having me.